Great. Good luck. We are live now. Dear, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Yes. Please, let's start. We are live now.
All right. A very warm welcome to all of viewers from all across the globe. Today, we at IIU are going to give you a presentation on what cyberbullying is. But before that, we all want you to know what IIU is all about. IIU is the first virtual university in the world where we have been conducting various workshops, sessions, and everything that you can know about knowledge, gaining knowledge, and be a window to a world which is so much new and informative. And our founder, Mr. Piyush Pandit, who has been pioneering in bringing about education to each level of, of the society, each strata of society, which needs to be educated, enlightened, and being the human that you want to be, being an enlightened soul, which has so much knowledge and learning. And today I, Dr. Nidhi Bansal, would be talking about what cyberbullying is. Now that we all are engaged into net surfing, be it for education, be it for gaining knowledge, be it for entertainment, and somehow, knowingly, unknowingly, we become victims of cyberbullying. Now, what exactly is cyberbullying? So I would like to show a few slides about what we are talking about, cyberbullying, and each one of us should know that being on internet does not mean, it means, that we are being exposed to so much, to the entire world, and how we can, we become victims. Sometimes, knowingly, and sometimes we become, vulnerable to cyberbullying, not even knowing that some of our information that is being leaked out, or maybe some of us are using it only because for their own personal vendetta or anything that would harm the working of individuals. So today we are going to begin with what cyberbullying is all about. Now, as we are going to share a couple of slides so that we could know what cyberbullying is all about. So cyberbullying refers to the use of digital communication tools such as social media, texting, online platforms to intentionally harass, intimidate, or harm individuals. It involves repeated and deliberate targeting of a person through electronic media and deliberate targeting of a person, resulting in emotional distress, social isolation, or other negative consequences. And now, moving on to the next slide, what are the various ways in which these cyber bullies are attacking people on cyber on net, on social media platforms, and that is through harassment or maybe cyber stalking and cyber threats. And what harassment is all about on internet, on net, social media network, because harassment is all about taking the kind of information, harassing you maybe mentally, or giving you threats, giving you an information that you may not be needing, but yet you are being, constantly intimidated by certain, pictures, maybe certain text, that maybe sometimes which, information that morally lets you down. So that is all what harassment is all about. And cyber stalking, they might be stalking you on various platforms. Maybe, they are constantly to look out for the pictures or the content that you are posting on on social media platforms, cyber threats. Now, what is cyber threat all about? They might be, giving you threats that they might expose certain something, sexual content about you, or maybe something that which you need to put in covers, but they have got hold of your pictures or some content that you might not be willing to share it publicly. And of course, public sharing, of course, something which is so private to us, something which is so personal to us, and yet these cyber bullies take hold, take account of these, and they are making us a target about, exposing it to the public in general. And impersonation is when a person who actually, camouflages his identity, and then he or she tries to intimidate you through that, getting information about yourself, and then posing it in a very different way, in a way which is not comfortable, in a way which is not ethical. And we have doxing and public exposed information. Now, doxing and public exposed information is like some information that you do not want to share with public at large, and then which is so much private, and yet these bullies take advantage of your vulnerability, or maybe some negligence on your part, that you are not very, you haven't protected that data probably, and they are constantly into, morally exposing you. They are trying to morally, let you down, and putting all those content on social media platform just to bully you, just to harass you. So these are the variations that we have in cyberbullying. And now, moving on to the next slide. What are the causes? Why do people go in for cyberbullying? This is something we should know, because the mindset, the mentality that goes into, making someone so resentful that you resort to, you resort to harassing people. You resort to, making others feel uncomfortable, making them feel physically, morally, letting them down. So this is what the causes are, like anonymity. Now that you're on internet, you're on a social media platform, and there is certain anonymity of the person, and that person can, obviously hiding behind the screen, and maybe just intimidating you for some reason, for some personal vendetta, power imbalance, because maybe you are, put in a position, you are in a powerful position where you are in command of things, where you are excelling, but that person may not be, liking that situation of yours. Maybe that person wants to be in your shoes, and yet only because there is a power imbalance, there is a status imbalance, maybe mentally or physically or emotionally, you are much more, placed on a higher pedestal, and that person wants to let you down, and that is what power imbalance is all about. And now, peer influence. Moving on ahead, what are the causes? Is peer influence, because we are surrounded by so many people, and the internet provides, a whole lot of plethora of images, pictures, and where you are socially enhanced. Maybe there is a peer influence that you need to be updated to your friends, maybe, or maybe you want to live up to their standards, but you are not capable of doing it for some reason or the other. Yet you want to create that balance. And because how you create a balance, if you're not able to rise to their status, you try to pull them down. That is what peer imbalance, peer influence, and power imbalance is all about. Revenge or retaliation. And that is something what, this is the main reason why people go into cyberbullying, because they need to, even out things with you, and maybe for some kind of a reason, or they want to retaliate on certain grounds. And so social media bullying is something which is very easy, and something which, it spreads like fire. So that is one reason why people go for cyberbullying. And it is, lack of empathy, desensitization, lack of awareness and education. Lack of awareness and education, because you have, limited knowledge about how to use the net. You have limited knowledge about how to, be protected. You have the privacy norms and everything. And when you know that a person does not have it, you have an advantage over, bullying that person, because that person has not protected his rights, and you are in a position to bully that person. Accessibility and connectivity. Now you have an access to certain, social media platforms, where you have an access to so many more rights. You have an access to someone else's social media account. You taken advantage of that situation, and when you take advantage of that situation, you are in a position to bully that person, to victimize that person, and that is these are the reasons of why cyberbullying is becoming more and more apparent nowadays. And moving ahead, now there are certain institutions. Now, if there is a victim, of course, there are victims who are vulnerable to cyberbullying, and there are institutions where these victims can address their the bullying, like whatever they have been going through. And if you are in a school and these incidents have happened in the premises of the school, of course the institution, the education institution, schools, the authorities should be should be informed about these kind of bullies and these kind of incidents that happen. They, of course, schools now have started having cells where you can directly tell them about your problems, and keeping in view of the anonymity of the victim, they are going to resolve the situations. Maybe they are going to counsel. And we have social media platforms, of course, where you can address these problems on social media platforms, where people are there at large listening to you. Because if you are facing something, the world needs to know that these are problems. There are people, there are antisocials who are affecting the society in a way, and so they should and they should be banned, maybe blacklisted, or they should be actually given the right treatment from cyber cells as to how we should stop them and how we should curb these kind of activities that are happening. Now we have law enforcements, of course, and internet social service providers, helplines and hotlines. Of course, these are all these are the institutions where we can actually address our problems, and there are certain helplines and hotlines as well, where you can bring your problem forth, and they would be there to help you out and to help find the victim. The victim, of course, is there. The help you find the bullies, and maybe they can just take into task. And so these are the institutions where we can look forward to any victim who is being bullied on social media networks, and the institutions. And now moving ahead, now as this is a global issue, and United Nations intervention and legal strategies have been working really hard relentlessly to curb cybercrime. And there are UN's Sustainable Development Goals 2030 agenda. This has been working really voraciously so that the children who are most vulnerable, because having limited knowledge about what internet, what social media is all about, and yet they need to address these problems. And this has been taken up as one of the most on top priority by the UN. And they're working ahead into these lines where we can curb cyberbullying. And the Global Initiative on Child Online Protection, COP, Telecommunication Union, ITU. Now, children have to be educated to a certain level as to how you can work upon these social media. They need to be taught about the privacy privacy licenses, privacy strategies, what they need to whenever they are on social media. They need to express themselves in a way that it is not something personal, something private, which is not being leaked out. They should be given knowledge about what their I would like to say what their rules and regulations are, what they need to follow, what they need to observe before being on social media and letting out all their information, their data to everyone, like that, because you never know who is going to use the data that you are being exposed to, and how they're going to use it in their own good or maybe bad way. And Human Rights Council resolution, there are certain resolutions which are being taken care of, and awareness and advocacy campaigns by UNICEF and UNESCO. These are the two major organizations who are working, trying to spread and advocate and support the idea of what cyberbullying is all about, and how we can, globally take this matter into account and try hard so that there are no victims at all. Maybe sensitize them about the strategies and whatever we can do to curb cyberbullying. And our UN collaboration with stakeholders, there are many stakeholders who are being collaborating with UN and being hand holding, so that we can always find a global solution to all of this cyberbullying and stop being victimized. And now we're moving on ahead. What are the legal rights of cyberbullying victims? What are the legal rights of cyberbullying victims? Now, this is most important because most of the time, cyberbullying, the victims do not know the kind of rights they have. The rights where, even if they are victimized, there are certain rights which they can exercise. They should know the kind of people to connect to. They, there are certain rules that have been laid that if a person is victimized, they can follow, United Nations and member countries also to provide certain rights to the victims of cyberbullying, which are as follows: right to privacy, freedom from harassment, right to dignity, right to equality, and right to education with special jurisdiction in cyber environment. Because we need, even if you have become a victim of cyberbullying, there are certain rights that we can, always observe, and we have to make the situation more comfortable so that they do not lose their dignity. They are not in a position where where they feel harassed and where they need to keep away from a public limelight. If they have been harassed, it is not their problem. It is not. They have been victimized, so they need to be supported. They need to be looked after, and they need to be live a life of dignity and rightfulness. So these are the legal rights that cyberbullying victims should be the same. And now, as we talk about the role of responsible medicine, as a role of a responsible citizen, there are so much we do, but we are netizens. Now, this is a new terminology which has been used, and being netizens, we have to be careful. Careful in a way, we should be responsible. Now, educate yourself. You must educate yourself the kind of person that you are. Are you probing into someone else's domain, which is not ethical? One should be knowing the responsibility of a person. If you are probing into someone else's domain, one should be careful of not doing it unless you take access or take the permission of that person. And even if the person has been victimized, if a person that has been victimized, forces some empathy and respect, because that person maybe knowingly, maybe unintelligently, maybe negligently has been a victim of cyber bullying. So we must empathize. We should not be judgmental. We should try to be in that person's shoes and see what were the reasons. Maybe those reasons now we can take it as an example of not repeating those mistakes. And those mistakes should actually be, what I believe is, they should be, addressed to the public at large, so that people should know that these are the ways why people get victimized, and we should try and curb them. And also, there's mindful sharing of content. Of course, we, as being a responsible citizen, we should know the kind of content that is being shared. Now, if you are going to share something which hurts the sentiments of a person, of a community, of a particular strata of society, so why should you be sharing something which hurts the sentiments of a person? And so there should be mindful sharing. There should be something positive that you share. Someone who gains out of what you're sharing. But sometimes people are being reckless about what they share, and how, in the long run, how does it affect the society at large? And of course, when there is mindful sharing, there is positivity, there is so much more a society can be a part of, so much more they can do. But if you are sharing some content which is blasphemous, maybe, which is not in the tuned to the society, I think that speaks a lot about how responsible you are as an citizen. Report and speak up. Of course, sometimes we do see content on internet, social media platforms, which are not, ethical, which are not authentic, and which are not aesthetic. So we should speak up. We have a voice, we have a role for the society, and we need to speak up. Because if we find something, we should report immediately, so that the rest of, because there are children who've been watching it, there are people who are not very aware of all the situations and how to deal with them. And when they are going through all of the content which is not very ethical, I mean, it goes a long way in, damaging the mindset of a person. So it is important that if you see something on the net, social media platforms, or anywhere which is open to public, so one should definitely stand and speak up to stop that sharing of that content, so that it does not affect the psyche of anyone who's watching it or seeing it. Practice digital resilience. Of course, we should definitely practice digital resilience, so that there are children who are, or maybe anyone who's watching, not only children, let us not talk about children, because internet is available to everyone, each part of the country. And since the time is now that we are so, enhanced digitally, and so much more that we have been seeing and watching. So we must practice digital resilience, so that none of us get affected and affected. Support victims is yet another thing that we should. We should not be judgmental about a person who victimized. We should, have empathy, sympathy, of course, goes with playing a long way, and supporting. If you feel that person has been wrongly accused of something or victimized, you should stand in support. When you stand in support of that person, it definitely boosts the morale of the person who has been bullied, and it also gives a lesson to the person the person who's being truant, so that he or she gets a lesson that this kind of behavior, this kind of the activities that the person is doing, it will not be accepted by the society, and they would be punished, or they would be brought in front of the entire world, and these kind of practices should be stopped. And as we move ahead, we should definitely promote digital literacy. Now that before moving, before posting anything on the social media platforms, there should be, we should, maybe we start workshops, or maybe there should be some helplines which would help them, that support them, and sensitize and educate them about the kind of privacy norms that you should follow, the kind of content you should upload, or maybe you edit few of your data that you are going to upload on social media, so that none of these anyone who is the victims, we can definitely bring down the rate of victims. We can give them knowledge about, when you are being you are being bullied, you should report that. You should know when you're being bullied. There are times when people do not understand they are being bullied, and after a certain time they feel this is the way things are happening. The things happen, which is not exactly true. I mean, they should be given knowledge about how things have to move on, what is the role of good and advantageous netting, who is going to be in your support, who is going to be there, being a goodwill ambassador to support you, to be there with you, and to help you promote yourself in a better way, and not be a victim of social media platforms, and encourage bystander intervention. Now, this is also very important. Sometimes what happens is that certain incidents happen, and we, as mute spectators, just listen to it and let it go. If someone else is going to stand up for that person, why should I? So let us not be those bystanders who would just surpass the incident, or an incident, or maybe that. Maybe that someone has been victimized. So we should speak up for that person. We should stand in support, so that we do not have anyone being a victim of social media events. And this is how we should stand in support with each other, and stop being the victim of cyberbullying. And I hope this entire session would have been, some valuable information to you regarding what cyberbullying is all about, how you can curb, these social, evils, and be stand in support for each other and be a true and responsible citizen. Thank you so much for being with us. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for being with me and being a part of IIU in the